On May 28, 1940, in the Reich Air Ministry in Berlin, Reich Marshal Hermann Göring laid down an intelligence report with undisguised contempt, dismissing President Franklin D. Roosevelt's request for Congress to authorize an unprecedented expansion of American aircraft production, an ambitious goal of 50,000 planes annually, as the desperate propaganda of a nation that knew nothing of war. Production. Göring scoffed at the notion that Americans could convert automobile factories into aircraft plants, believing such claims were mere bluff, unaware that in Detroit, a Danish immigrant named William Knudsen, the former president of General Motors, had already begun orchestrating the largest industrial transformation in human history. Knudsen, working for $1 per year as Roosevelt's production chief, applied mass production techniques honed in the automotive industry to aircraft manufacturing, proving German assumptions catastrophically wrong. Within 4 years, American factories would produce nearly 100,000 aircraft annually, while simultaneously supplying 2 distant theaters of war, an industrial feat that would render Germany's numerical and technological advantages moot. Roosevelt's proclamation on May 16, 1940, made as German panzers raced through France, had been met with skepticism even among allies. In 1939, the United States had produced a mere 3,611 military aircraft, with an Army Air Corps of 1,700 largely obsolete combat planes. Yet Roosevelt's call for a 14-fold increase in production ignited a national industrial revolution. Knudsen, abandoning a $300,000 salary to serve his adopted country, became the architect of what presidential advisor Bernard Baruch described as an impossible task. First, Bill Knudsen. Second, Bill Knudsen. Third, Bill Knudsen. Under his guidance, the transformation began immediately. By December 1941, American factories were producing 2,000 military aircraft per month, a 20-fold increase in just 2 years, as Ford announced plans for the massive Willow Run bomber plant in Michigan. Boeing expanded Seattle facilities, and Douglas Aircraft hired tens of thousands of workers. The arsenal of democracy was awakening, and Germany's dismissive contempt reflected both prejudice and ideological blindness. General Friedrich von Berthica, Germany's military attaché in Washington from 1933 to 1941, sent repeated reports warning that American industrial mobilization would reach unimaginable heights. Yet Berlin dismissed these as exaggeration, and Hitler's racialist worldview precluded serious consideration of American capacity, labeling the population half Judaized, half negrified, and incapable of sustained warfare. Luftwaffe intelligence could not comprehend the implications of women entering factories in large numbers, assuming desperation rather than understanding that democratic mobilization could outpace totalitarian command. Ford's Willow Run plant, constructed beginning April 18, 1941, on farmland and stretching over 3.5 million square feet with a mile-long assembly line, was designed to produce 1 B-24 Liberator bomber per hour, a scale unmatched anywhere in the world. Initial results were disastrous, with the first bombers requiring complete rebuilding and defect rates reaching 50%, earning Willow Run the derisive nickname, "Will it run?" Yet American engineers persisted, breaking the B-24's 488-193 parts into manageable sub-assemblies, introducing hydraulic riveting tools, prefabricated wiring harnesses, and moving assembly lines while accommodating 578 design changes in 1943 alone. By September 1943, production reached 148 bombers per month, and by December, 365, culminating in April 1944 with 428 B-24s, one every 63 minutes, exceeding the output of the entire German aviation industry. German pilots first recognized the American advantage in the Tunisia campaign, with Major Johannes Steinhoff noting in December 1942 that the Americans were no longer amateurs and that their numbers increased daily. By early 1943, the reality became undeniable. When the first American raids on Germany began on January 27th, 64 bombers attacked Wilhelmshaven, and by October, during Black Thursday at Schweinfurt, Germany could not replace lost aircraft fast enough, with American losses rapidly recoverable. During Big Week, February 2025, 1944, the 8th and 15th Air Forces flew 3,500 sorties against German aircraft production, inflicting irrecoverable losses of veteran pilots, while America produced 2,500 fighters monthly, outpacing German replacement capabilities. By 1944, U.S. aircraft production reached 96,270 planes, including 16,048 four-engine bombers, 35,743 fighters, and 22,591 multi-engine aircraft, surpassing Germany's entire wartime output. American planes featured powered turrets, advanced bomb sights, sophisticated navigation, and massive ammunition loads, while German fighters often lacked radios or were underarmed. Boeing's Seattle plant produced 16 B-17s daily. Douglas had expanded from 68 employees in 1936 to 167,000 across 9 facilities. North American Aviation churned out 500 P-51 Mustangs monthly, and Lockheed produced 1 P-38 Lightning every 90 minutes, while implementing 2,127 combat-driven modifications. Supporting industries matched the pace, with General Motors producing 57,358 aircraft engines, Packard building 55,403 Merlin engines, Alcoa tripling aluminum output, and Dow Chemical increasing magnesium production from 6 million to 333 million pounds annually. The workforce's transformation shattered Nazi assumptions, with women rising from less than 1% of aircraft workers in 1941 to 65% by 1943, including 3,000 to 10,000 female employees in total. Rosie the Riveter herself, Rose Will Monroe, drove 3,000 rivets per shift at Willow Run with 99.5% accuracy, and female inspectors reduced defect rates dramatically. Ford redesigned tools for smaller hands, improving efficiency, reducing fatigue, and decreasing injuries, turning perceived weakness into strength. Meanwhile, Germany increasingly relied on slave labor, dispersing production into 729 underground facilities with horrific conditions, where tens of thousands perished and output was lower and defect rates higher than a single American plant. American innovation continued unabated, with Boeing developing modular B-29 assembly across 4 plants, producing 100 B-29s monthly by early 1945, while Lockheed and Bell pursued jet development alongside mass production of conventional aircraft. By June 6, 1944, D-Day demonstrated the culmination of this industrial might. 11,590 Allied aircraft against 319 German sorties, achieving a 36-to-1 advantage, an industrial annihilation that could not be matched tactically. Göring, captured in May 1945 and later imprisoned at Camp Ashken in Luxembourg, gradually realized the magnitude of American production, admitting in interviews that the execution of Roosevelt's plan exceeded his worst fears, with single factories like Willow Run surpassing Germany's entire bomber force. At Nuremberg, he confronted irrefutable evidence, charts showing America producing more aircraft monthly than Germany produced annually, films of assembly lines, and the devastation wrought by those planes. By war's end, the U.S. had produced 295,959 military aircraft, compared to Germany's 94,677, with systemic superiority in every aspect: logistics, adaptation, technology, and workforce organization. 2 million Americans, including women, minorities, disabled workers, teenagers, and elderly citizens, had transformed into the most skilled aviation workforce in history, revolutionizing production methods, creating innovations that would power post-war industry, space programs, and global economic dominance. Göring, who had mocked American capabilities, ultimately understood the reality too late, committing suicide in October 1946, leaving a testament to the decisive role of democratic industrial mobilization over totalitarian control. The American production miracle not only ensured victory, but demonstrated that free people, united in purpose, could achieve the impossible. Burying the Third Reich under an avalanche of planes, engines, and industrial might, proving that democracy, when combined with ingenuity, organization, and collective effort, could overwhelm tyranny more decisively than any army ever could. Every B-24 rolling off Willow Run, every P-51 or B-29 built across the United States, represented not just aircraft, but democracy's triumph, the power of voluntary cooperation, and the capacity of a free people to transform a nation into an unstoppable industrial colossus, turning Hermann Göring's derision into history's most costly miscalculation and changing the course of the 20th century forever.